Finnish police have detained 2 crew members of the cargo ship Fitberg, suspected of damaging an undersea transmission cable between Helsinki and Tallinn. 2 other sailors have been banned from leaving the country. The entire 14-member crew of the vessel has also been questioned. Finnish authorities have no doubt that this is yet another act of Russian sabotage in the Baltic Sea. Recently, there has been a series of similar incidents involving the Shadow Fleet, the fleet that Russia uses to smuggle oil. The Eagle S damaged telecommunication cables and a power cable connecting Estonia and Finland. This is a series of incidents that began in 2023 and were initiated by a Chinese vessel. It is worth remembering this. The vessel used a technique that was later used repeatedly, both by Chinese and Russian vessels, namely an anchor that damaged underwater infrastructure. These actions are aimed at damaging the extensive underwater infrastructure. Information concerning, among other things, the military, energy, and financial security of NATO countries is transmitted along the bottom of the Baltic Sea.
Our relations with Russia have changed permanently. What remains unchanged is that Russia is our neighbor.
The Finnish president referred to the threat posed by Russia in his New Year's address.
We cannot be certain that Russia is ready for peace. Peace is often a compromise.
In recent years, sabotage and diversion campaigns carried out by Russian services on NATO's eastern flank have become increasingly frequent. As for Russian provocations, they have already reached their peak. Attacks on communication infrastructure, arson, but also disinformation in the broad sense. These included Russian aircraft violating Lithuanian airspace, Russian aircraft dangerously approaching Polish airspace, and a series of damages to critical infrastructure on the bottom of the Baltic Sea, that is, telecommunications cables, by ships of the so-called Shadow Fleet, and drones over airports not only on the eastern flank, but also throughout Europe. In Poland, too, we are increasingly feeling the effects of Russia's hybrid warfare. Russia wants to create chaos in Europe to make Europeans more confused, and in a sense, it is partially succeeding, because the most threatened countries are those on NATO's eastern flank. Let us recall that in September, more than 20 drones flew into Poland. In November, railway tracks were blown up, and on Christmas Eve, as many as 60 balloons flew into our airspace, seemingly for smuggling. Some of them had navigation systems attached. Earlier, there were mysterious arson attacks in our country. One such case is the arson attack on the warehouse at 44 Marywiecka Street in Warsaw, for which the Russian Military Intelligence Service, GRU, is responsible. Another case is the blowing up of the railway track in Mika, connecting Warsaw with Lublin. Here, in addition to blowing up our railway infrastructure, the Russians also achieved the effect that up to 10,000 of our troops, instead of training at military training grounds and familiarizing themselves with the latest equipment, are involved in protecting our critical infrastructure, including the railway. Through such incidents, Russia is trying to influence the situation in eastern flank countries, such as Poland, Romania, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and the Baltic states. Their goal is to test state security systems and services and to destabilize and frighten the public. The Polish government has not yet developed any strategy to respond to the diversion coming from the east. Russia is trying to expand various forms of activity. It is finding new niches that allow for this type of aggression against Poland, and it is doing so with absolute impunity, because there is still a lack of effective communication between the public and the government in Poland when it comes to communication in critical situations. The Polish National Security Bureau has published maps showing the locations where drones and balloons have fallen, including 16 incidents involving Russian or Belarusian drones in Poland from September to the end of 2025. Events in the last months of 2025 indicate that Russia and Belarus have intensified their provocations in the air domain, making them a permanent part of their catalog of actions against Poland and other NATO countries. In 2026, provocations in the air domain are expected to be repeated. Russia wants to sow chaos and test our ability to repel an attack. Flags at half-mast in a state of emergency. This is how Switzerland bids farewell to the victims of the fire at the luxury ski resort of Crans, Montana. Over 40 young people died, and 115 were hospitalized with severe burns. A 30-person team from the prosecutor's office is identifying the remains of the deceased in order to return the bodies to their families. Here we have absolutely no idea how many there were. We don't know their names. Needless to say, documents or any such items were burned or destroyed by water or debris when rescuers evacuated people. So this is a nightmare for those conducting forensic identification. France and Italy immediately provided all possible assistance, including admitting victims of the disaster to their hospitals. Poland is also among the countries that offered their help. We can say that about 50 injured people have been or will soon be transported to European countries to specialized centers dealing with severe burns. We are facing a tragedy and devastating loss. 40 people have died. These numbers are heartbreaking. On behalf of the Valais government, I would like to express our deepest sympathy and sincere condolences at this difficult time. How did this happen? The main hypothesis is that it was an accident. After midnight at around 1:30 a.m., young people were playing with sparklers. These are harmless when used as intended. However, this time the sparks hit a flammable sponge that had been used to soundproof the ceiling of the room. The sponge caught fire very quickly, causing panic. All hell broke loose. I was there where it started, in the basement, right in the middle, and I had to grab a table. I was holding my friend in my arms. She slipped. Unfortunately, she is missing today. I had to take the table to protect myself from the flames, knock the table over and hide behind it, because the flames were starting to hit, and people were trying to get upstairs. The resort where thousands of people have fun every day, surrounded by bars, boutiques, and ski lifts, became a place of reflection, mourning, and sadness on New Year's Eve. Residents and tourists alike bring candles and flowers to pay tribute to the victims. I know this bar because a lot of youth, foreigners, and tourists go there. I'm waiting to see the list of victims. I'm sure I know them. They go there every day, often in the evening. They are young people, mainly teenagers. Parents and relatives are searching for young people with the help of social media, asking acquaintances and friends. They are looking for any sign. They have not given up hope. Among them is the mother of 16-year-old Arthur Brodard. The photo was taken that night before he went to La Constellation. So if you have seen him in hospitals, if you have seen him in the morgue, whether he is alive or not, please contact me. I don't know how serious his burns are. I don't know if he can be recognized. I don't know. I just want to find my child. I just want to find my son. The families of the fire victims are experiencing unimaginable suffering. Now all they can do is wait for information about their loved ones. Protests in Iran spread to other cities. Demonstrators take to the streets. Gunshots are heard in many places. At night, barricades erected against government forces are set on fire. According to official data, at least 7 people have been killed in the clashes. The heaviest fighting is taking place outside the capital. In smaller towns, security forces are using live ammunition. The authorities confirm casualties on both sides. The immediate cause of the protests is the deepening economic crisis. Inflation, currency devaluation, and rising living costs are hitting the poorest hardest. Slogans calling for the overthrow of the Islamic regime are being chanted in the streets. Instead of focusing on fuel, the government should focus on other goods and lower their prices. For example, dairy products become more expensive 5 or 6 times a year. Other goods become more expensive 10 times a year, and they only focus on the price of fuel. Tehran speaks of an attempt to destabilize the country. The authorities accuse foreign centers of fueling the protests and announce a decisive response from the security services. A march in support of the regime was organized in Tehran. On the other hand, the president himself is calling on officials to address the problems of the provinces. This is an attempt to stop the escalation. It is possible that the government will be dissolved in an attempt to control the chaos. The people are dissatisfied. We have made a mistake. You have made a mistake. Don't blame America. Don't blame, I don't know, someone else. We are the ones who must serve the people, and they should be satisfied with us. We are the ones who must manage our resources properly. We are the ones who must find a way and solve the problem. Except that Iran's internal situation matters to global players. The President of the United States has just warned Iran against further use of force against protesters. If Iran shoots and violently kills peaceful protesters, which is their custom, the United States of America will come to their rescue. We are locked and loaded and ready to go. Tehran's response is predictable. Iran rejects outside interference, considering it a violation of its sovereignty. Iranians know U.S. rescue record well, from Iraq and Afghanistan to Gaza. Any intervening hand nearing Iran's security on pretexts will be cut off with a regret-inducing response. Iran's national security is a red line, not material for adventurous tweets. The Iranian regime also threatens American military bases in the region. A few days ago, the American president threatened Iran with an airstrike if it began rebuilding its nuclear capabilities.
Now I hear that Iran is trying to build up again, and if they are, we're going to have to knock them down. We'll knock them down. We'll knock the hell out of them, but hopefully that's not happening. I heard Iran wants to make a deal. If they want to make a deal, that's much smarter. You know, they could have made a deal the last time before we went through, a big attack on them, and they decided not to make the deal. They wish they made that deal. So I think, again, they should make a deal.
At the same time, Moscow is offering assistance to Tehran. For several days now, Russian and Belarusian transport planes carrying weapons and ammunition have been landing in Iran. These are the most serious protests since 2022. At that time, Iran was shaken by the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini, who was detained and beaten by the police. In an act of defiance, young women in mosques removed their hijabs, demonstrating their disobedience to Islamic law. That wave was brutally suppressed by forces loyal to the Ayatollahs. Today's protests show that tensions in Iran continue to rise. Social discontent is combined with political rebellion, and any decision by the regime could trigger further escalation. After the madness of New Year's Eve, it's time to recharge. Some people relax quietly at home, while others opt for active recreation, walking, running, or even swimming in ice-cold water. We start with the New Year's Day Parade in the United Kingdom, one of the largest and most recognizable New Year's events in the world, an international celebration of culture, diversity, and community. Every year on January 1st, the event is attended by marching bands and orchestras, dance groups, schools, universities, community organizations, and international delegations from around the world. Crowds of residents and tourists filled the streets of Rome to watch the annual New Year's Parade. It is Italy's largest marching band show. This year, several bands from abroad, especially from the U.S., also participated, including cheerleaders, dancers, historical reenactors, and folk musicians. To uphold tradition, Romans are ready to jump into the icy waters of the Tiber River, welcoming the new year with a traditional jump from the Cavour Bridge. The annual competition has been held on New Year's Day since 1946. In Barcelona, they envied the Romans and also decided to jump into the icy water. It was the first traditional swim in the Mediterranean Sea this year. Hundreds of daredevils jumped into water with a temperature of 14 degrees Celsius. You have to jump in right away. I always do that. There's no point in thinking about it. I've been doing it since I was 5 years old, my whole life. It's a great way to start the year, in the sea, on the beach in Barcelona, with family and friends. And here's the Berlin version of the new year. Thousands of runners set off from the Brandenburg Gate to start the new year actively. The 53rd edition of the race, in which over 4,000 runners took part, led along the famous Unter den Linden Boulevard to the city cathedral and back. Last Lastly, the capital of Japan. Thousands of people gather at the Meiji Shrine in central Tokyo to pray for good fortune in the new year.
本当に久しぶりやったんですよ。
I prayed with real fervor for a safe and happy year.
去年も1年
I came here to ask the gods that my family may live happily and healthily.
上の役職に行け
I
るように
prayed for a promotion at work. I feel that this year could be a turning point. The New Year is an important holiday in Japan, during which people visit shrines to offer coins in exchange for their wishes coming true.